Next we have, since our meeting here last July, our first speaker, Terry Smith, had a role in the Plague Theater production of The Murder Room in Westlake. In April, he returned to his alma mater, Miami University, and spoke to an alumni luncheon for the College of Engineering and Computing. He recently spoke at the North Olmsted Kiwanis and was also a guest of Stephen Krause and George Satari on AM Radio 1220. And George is a member of our organization as well. On two separate occasions, when he recited speeches of Oliver Wendell Holmes, Robert Kennedy, Colonel Joshua Chamberlain, and Abraham Lincoln. American nationalities is dedicated to protecting freedom and working for freedom of people who still live in captive nations. The Apollo 11 mission is an example of the great endeavors that individuals and mankind can achieve in a free world. And here is Terry Smith to give us a little recreation of the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11.
Thank you, Judge. I'd like to thank the band Nice and Easy for that Fly Me to the Moon. It's appropriate. Judge, Irene Morrow, Father Leos, honorees, ladies and gentlemen, in May of 1961, President John F. Kennedy addressed a joint session of Congress and declared, "I believe this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth." Among the hundreds of thousands of those who accepted Kennedy's challenge who wanted to make their own contribution, whether it be large or small, to the space race, and specifically to the success of the Apollo 11 mission, was Eleanor Foraker, a spacesuit seamstress, who recalls, "Well, President Kennedy wanted to be first on the moon, and all the ladies were very tuned into that. Everyone was very proud of what they were doing, and everyone pulled their own weight. We wanted to get it done, and we were happy and proud to be there." Katherine Johnson, African-American mathematician, who developed calculations for every American manned space flight from Alan Shepard through the Apollo missions, was asked what she thought her biggest contribution to space exploration was, and she replied, "I think developing the calculations to determine the exact time the lunar lander had to lift off from the surface of the moon to reunite with Command Module Columbia." And asked to reflect on her career at NASA, she later said, "I loved every day of it." She'll be celebrating her 101st birthday next month in Virginia. Charlie Mars, NASA Chief Lunar Module Project Engineer, reflects, "I think one of the things we had was a common goal, and all of us realized that we were into something that was one of the few things in history that was going to stand out over the years. We're going to go to the moon. We're putting a man on the moon." And that so captured our imagination and our emotion that we didn't want to go home at night. We just wanted to keep going. And we couldn't wait to get up and back at work in the morning because we're going to the moon. President Kennedy was assassinated 2.5 years after his famous moonshot speech. But in July of 1969, 50 years ago this week, Kennedy's dream became reality. And the glow from the fire of national enthusiasm he sparked did truly light the world, and just for one moment. That moment came 4 days after 3 astronauts sitting atop a Saturn V rocket blasted off from the eastern coast of Florida on Cape Canaveral, now orbiting the moon at 69 miles above the surface. 2 of those astronauts, Commander Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, transferred through the weightlessness of space into the Lunar Excursion Module Eagle, nicknamed the LEM. Mission Control hears the words, "The Eagle has wings." The 3rd astronaut, Michael Collins, will remain in the command module for the duration of the mission. Collins must now endure not only the loneliness of being separated from every human being on Earth, now 240,000 miles away, and also from his fellow astronauts in space, but is now face to face with a secret terror that has gripped him for months. The terror of not knowing whether his fellow astronauts would return safely to the command module. He imagines them landing safely on the moon, exploring the moon, but when the time comes for the module to lift off from the surface, he imagines a failed rocket booster such that the LEM fails to rise from the surface or crashes back into it, leaving Neil and Buzz to slowly die on the moon, there being no chance of recovery. Were that to happen, recently elected President Nixon would be obligated to deliver a eulogy to the American people, a speech which fortunately never had to be delivered, but was prepared in the event of such a disaster, and which ran in part. Fate has ordained that the men who went to the moon to explore in peace will stay on the moon to rest in peace. These brave men, Neil Armstrong and Edwin Aldrin, know that there is no hope for their recovery, but they also know that there is hope for mankind in their sacrifice. Collins then imagines himself having to travel back to Earth alone, only to become a marked man for the rest of his life. But when the time comes for Collins back to reality to speak to the American people in a broadcast from space, instead of divulging these terrors, he says instead, speaks of something larger than himself and says, all this is possible only through the blood, sweat, and tears of a number of people. Somewhat like the periscope of a submarine, all you see are the three of us, but beneath the surface are thousands and thousands of others. I know I would be a liar or a fool if I said that I have the best of the three Apollo 11 seats, but I can say with truth and equanimity that I am perfectly satisfied with the one I have. And as the LEM travels closer to the surface of the moon, Buzz Aldrin calls out program alarm 1202, and moments later program alarm 1201. The astronauts, unfamiliar with their codes, move into action to find the cause of the alarms. They quickly determine that the codes simply indicate a computer information load, and they also determine that the guidance system is functioning properly, the mission still is good to go. Armstrong continues to pilot the LEM closer to the surface, now navigating horizontally to find a suitable landing site. When he does so, he straightens the LEM, begins to descend to the final 500 feet. Engineers on the ground, aware of recent alarms, and now seeing indicators showing just 59 seconds of descent fuel remaining, can only wait with bated breath and try to force the LEM to the surface through sheer willpower. Moments later, Armstrong's voice is heard at mission control. Houston, Tranquility Base here, the Eagle has landed. Charlie Duke, capsule communicator in Houston, both exhilarated and relieved, stumbles a bit in his response to Armstrong when he says, Roger, Tranquility, we copy on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot. And as Armstrong and Aldrin prepare for their EVA, extravehicular activity, thousands gather in New York City's Central Park to watch the moonwalk telecast project on a large screen. In Milan, Italy, people gather around a small black and white television set. In almost every country on Earth, America's allies and adversaries, almost 600 million people silently watch and listen as Armstrong crawls out of the exit hatch of the LEM and climbs down 9 rungs. He says, I'm at the foot of the ladder now. The LEM footpads are only depressed to the surface about 1 or 2 inches. Going to step off the LEM now. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Thank you very much.